Are you ready for the Low Blows Network? Hi guys, Rick here. Before we get to this episode of Paddy's New Yacht, I'd like to talk briefly about gambling because it'll be discussed a lot on this show. Gambling is supposed to be fun and accoutrement to your sporting weekend. However, it can also be debilitating and ruin lives. If you find that your gambling gets in the way of work, school or other activities, causes mental or physical health issues, causes any issues in your life, gives you financial stress of any kind or damages your reputation, then gambling may be a danger to you. If you spot any of these signs in yourself, stop gambling immediately, consult problemgambling.ie for all resources that can assist you and help yourself before it's too late. And now, on to Paddy's New Yacht.
Former pro wrestler Rick Nash and former Paddy Power insider David Kent are not good gamblers. They're sports fanatics who are determined to crack the code and make it rich on sports gambling or die trying.
This time next year, we'll be millionaires.
Follow them on their journey to eventual bankruptcy every Friday on the Low Blows Network with sports tips that made so much sense at the time in Paddy's New Yacht.
Eight goals, 19 shots on target, a post, a bar, 26 dribbles and exactly 1,000 passes. The words of Sid Lowe describing an absolute belter of a game on Wednesday night. I told you last week, lads, keep an eye on Villarreal. Like I did warn you, and then they had a classic against Celta Vigo, a late Iago Aspas penalty winning the day for Celta Vigo, and then they had this in Barcelona where relegation threatened. Villarreal almost beat Barca in a 4-all draw, went 2-0 down, went ahead 4-2, and then Barca pegged them back. Late goal from Luis Suarez. It was like literally they had Ter Stegen, the goalkeeper, in the penalty area for a corner. Suarez ended up scoring. When do we ever even see that? When do we see the keeper come up for a late goal and then a goal actually happened? So it's the first time as well, an interesting stat I read during the week, since 1949, a team that trailed by two led by two against Barcelona. So absolutely amazing, and it came out of nowhere as well. People are like, right, Barca are cruising to the title, Villarreal are probably going to get relegated now they lost to Celta, like they don't seem to be clicking, and then it just all turned on its head. And that's why we love sports, was to get us kicked off here on another edition of Paddy's New Yacht. Rick Nash and the Daily Star and Buzz.ie's David Kent in the house as always. Dave, what are your unexpected classics in sports history?
I'm sticking with soccer, but I'm coming back to the Premier League. I'm going for like the most memorable game in the modern Premier League era, the most iconic game. Well, no, maybe not the most iconic game, the most iconic moment. And it's City against QPR, 2012, last day of the season. Two simple games on paper. Obviously, City home to QPR, United away at Sunderland. If United win and City win the league on goal difference for the first time in 44 years. QPR kind of had a part to play as well because they needed a result to stay up. Otherwise, they were relying on Bolton losing. So, like, on paper, that's easy. They're both going to win. City are going to win, no problem. 1-0, Paddy Kenny fucks it up 5 minutes before half-time. It's all going to plan. But then, just as a second half-time, something changes. And Djibril Cissé, of all people, equalises for QPR. Joey Barton then becomes Joey Barton. And knees Sergio Aguero on the back, kicks Carlos Tevez, headbutts Company and tries to square up to Balotelli. 2 minutes after that happens, QPR go 2-1 up. 10 men at QPR now, looking for a result, go 2-1 up at the champions-elect. Look, we all know what happened next, but just, if you predicted that beforehand, just that 2-1, 10 men, Barton, everything happening, you would have been mad. Like, Edin Dzeko's kind of the forgotten man in this as well, as is Balotelli. He registered his only Premier League assist in setting up Aguero in 3 years. But just that game is, like, complete box. No one would have called 3-2 with the way it worked out and everything involved happening in it.
Yeah,
it was just mental.
Still a painful memory as a Man United
of
fan.
Course.
But at the same time, it's one of those when a sporting moment is truly classic, even the losing side will have to concede, all right, yeah, that was pretty good, because it was just a roller coaster of emotion. Because as a United fan, went into the day like, all right, we're not going to win the Premier League today, and then it happened. We had it won for like a good 10 minutes. It was happening, and then no, in the last kick of the game, pretty much, much all was taken away from us. It was cruel, but it was beautiful, and it was what we love about sports. Well, you brought up a painful memory for me, so I'm going to bring up a painful memory for you. I'm going to talk about Portsmouth 7, Reading 4 in 2007-8. Still to this day, the highest scoring match in Premier League history. And again, like, it's one of these games. If we had Paddy's new yacht in 2007-8, what we would have said about this was, yeah, look, whatever, 1-1, yeah, don't pay too much attention to this game. But it became the highest scoring game in Premier League history. Reading came back from 2-0 down before Portsmouth ran away with it in the second half. And then it got absolutely farcical towards the end. Because I was looking at, this wasn't actually the only Reading game I looked at. I looked at the Reading United game as well, which was 4-3 to Man United, of course. But that all happened within the first 34 minutes, and then it was kind of a shit game afterwards. This, like, the game as a contest was dead by about the hour mark, but it got absolutely farcical as the game went on, with 4 goals in the last 20 minutes. It was just, keepers just weren't keeping them out. I think Reading had a 66% shot conversion rate, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Missed a penalty as well.
There was a missed penalty. There was a Benjani hat-trick. There was 3 Irish people involved as well. Stephen Hunt, Kevin Doyle and Shane Long, of course. And it was also, for me, and this is a standard I hold highly, it was the best game you'll ever see involving Michael Dewberry. So that was, that's it for me. If you're talking unexpected classics, and like what you expect versus what you eventually get, Portsmouth Reading is a game that, like, if it was on your back garden, you close the curtains. But like, turned into an absolute classic. And again, that's why we love sports. That's why we love what we do. And what a weekend it's been in sports. And what a week we have coming up. An absolutely huge week in Europe, which we're going to be talking you through if you've been out of the loop. Something you'll definitely want to keep your eye on. It's also big weekend, of course, in the Premier League and the FA Cup semi-finals. We're going to be previewing them. But first, we're going to talk about the news, as we always do, because, ladies and gentlemen, we only have an hour a week to discuss all the sports. So we're not just football fans, we're sports fans. We want to talk about it all. So what we do is we take our 5 favourite stories of the week and we put a minute on the clock for each. In theory, it usually goes longer. We call it the 5 in 5, where we give our lightning hot takes, and it gets underway now because Liverpool fans have started to believe, as despite it looking like Spurs might nick it at the death, a late own goal owing to a howler from Hugo Lloris saw them come out victorious in a dramatic Super Sunday. With Chelsea falling apart, that might be their last big test, while City have Spurs, United and crucial FA Cup and Champions League clashes this month alone. Is it time to finally accept that this year might be Liverpool's year?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll talk about it more later on, but they're not, that they're still winning all these games, and we've talked about it last week, someone's going to get them, and it just looks like they're not. I thought Spurs were the last big bastion for someone which might take points off them. Their running now is actually solid enough. Even they've got Chelsea at Anfield. Their record is excellent at Anfield. The problem is, I don't know if winning all their games will be enough. I know City have a packed schedule. I'll talk about that later on as well. But like, Liverpool could finish with 97 points and still not win the Premier League. It's an absolutely incredible season, and that's what that's what people have been talking about during the week. Like, there's no more talk of bottling it from any of them. And now I've been one of the biggest people to say Liverpool are going to bottle it. But even I've said admire it now that they're going to be there or thereabouts, and if they don't win, they're just going to be incredibly unlucky to have ran into City.
There's like a part of me as a United fan that doesn't know which outcome I'd rather have.
Yeah.
If like they bottled it spectacularly, like we don't let this slip, or if they did win all their games and still didn't win and just had to, and it's like forever, like they'll forever moan about that, and they're like, yeah, well, we got 97 points, greatest like losing total, and it's like, yeah, losing. Liverpool are for real, they proved it, but it's reminding me of 2 specific seasons in particular. One is the Leicester season when they won the Premier League, where everyone's like, alright, this is all going to end now, it's all going to come, and then like a big club is going to win this, like relax, they're not going to do it, but they kept on winning, they kept on doing it week after week. The bad news for Liverpool fans is that it's also reminding me of the season they did let it slip. Because you'll remember in that, they were great up until it got to proper squeaky bum time. The Chelsea game and the Crystal Palace game both happened late. Crystal Palace, it was the last week of the season where they threw it all away. Chelsea, it was like 3 games left. So they still have to get to proper squeaky bum time. I'm going to talk about it later. They have a tough test coming up this weekend But like, yeah, so I don't know. It's reminding me of 2 seasons, but now I'm at least mentally preparing myself to live in a world where Liverpool might be champions, because it's looking good for them.
At the opposite end of the table, history was made for the bad reason. As first Huddersfield equaled the Premier League record, and then Fulham were relegated in the space of 4 days. It's officially the earliest we've ever had 2 sides down in the Premier League season. Where do they rank, though, in terms of worst Premier League teams in history? Obviously, points-wise, they're not, because Derby got 11 or 14, whatever it was. But just performance-wise, they've got to be down there.
Yeah, like we literally discussed that exact topic last week, so I'm not gonna hover too much on that. They're bad. They're really bad. And look, I'm actually glad that they got relegated, because it means less time worrying about them. We knew it was an inevitability, so with those kind of clubs, I'm like, yeah, just go down, like, at this stage, because I don't want to think about you anymore. You're irrelevant at this stage. And it means they can also, like, it's better for them as well, because they weren't going to, they could do a West Brom last season and put up a plucky fight towards the end, but it's just delaying an inevitability. Now they can start planning for their new seasons. Fulham, really disappointing. The team that they had, they should not be going down. They should be like, Fulham's, like, if you look at that team on paper, they're 11th or 12th in the league. They're good enough to be there. They should not be going down. It's particularly disappointing for them. Huddersfield, I think it was a miracle even last season they stayed up. So, you know, it was inevitable for them. They just didn't have the players. So, I'm happy to see this happen, to be honest.
Yeah, look, Fulham in particular, I think I called it in our ridiculously early Premier League picks last year that Fulham would go down because they just had defensive problems. And I was kind of hoping they would have fixed them, because, again, on paper, you're not like some World Cup winner and Andre Schürrle in your squad. You got Sessegnon on, a really exciting youngster, and they just did nothing. They couldn't fix, like, we knew that their defensive issues were going to be a problem 3 weeks in. So instead of fixing them, they sacked their manager, got Ranieri in, and, still there, so they sacked him. And now Scott Parker, and now they still got the same issues. So, like, you haven't learned anything. You don't deserve your place here. Huddersfield, yeah, I mean, David Wagner did as much as he could with that side last year, kind of got found out this year. But I'd say we might actually see them start playing better now, because there's no pressure on them.
Yeah, this is it. You can get some random results towards the end of the season. Anyway, moving on. In rugby, Munster and Leinster both needed to come from behind, but both got big wins over Edinburgh and Ulster to advance to the semis of the Heineken Cup at the weekend. But will we see an all-Irish final this year? We asked the same last year as well.
Yeah, there's so many times we've had this over the last few years where it's just been thereabouts. Like, I think Leinster got a stroke of luck with Racing completely shitting themselves against Toulouse and not being able to beat them with 14 men. So they've got the home air quotes. It's meant to be neutral, but it's in the Aviva. Kind of like, that's like the Dublin issue in the GA, except rugby has upper class people in it, so no one's really going to complain. Munster, look, if they get there, they'll deserve it, because they have to go to Saracens, which is the toughest game in club rugby. I'm really hopeful, because I think Munster and Leinster are very, very even. I mean, Ulster nearly pulled shock of the century last week in beating Leinster, so they're not that indestructible. I don't think Toulouse will beat them. But if Munster are able to turn over Saracens in their backyard, I can't see anyone stop it. I can't see Leinster even stopping Munster to win it. But hopefully, because look, an all-Irish final, that'd be excellent. And it's in Newcastle as well, so you'd have a massive attendance too.
Look, with these season-long cup competitions, it's not as simple as, like, if Munster beat Saracens, they're going to beat Leinster, because it'll be a different Munster team showing up to the Heineken Cup final that decide that beat Saracens, you know what I mean? And that's before you even take into account injuries. I think it's the final we all want. Like, I'm sold, and I'm not a big club rugby guy, so I'm all in on this. I really hope we get it. Do I think we will? I don't know. I can't honestly speak enough to it to speak with any credibility, and we don't know, so that's why we'll be watching. But I'll definitely be keeping an eye on it on Easter weekend. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, after 3 defeats in the last 4 games, has the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer magic already worn off for United fans? I saw some pretty angry hot takes on Twitter after the defeat to Wolves.
For the fans, no, I don't think so. Like you're always going to get hot takes after. Like, that's the point of Twitter. Like, it's where people say the opposite of what everyone's thinking in an effort to get attention. So, no, I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's credit with fans is fine for the season. He brought us back the morale that we were so desperately lacking under Mourinho. And the Paris Saint-Germain result alone, like, even if we go out miserably, which looks more likely as the weeks go on against Barcelona, Barcelona, we'll always have Paris. So no, I think he'll be fine for this season. Next season is where it gets difficult, but this is what we've been speaking of with Paris Saint-Germain. It doesn't matter what his relationship is like with the fans. It doesn't matter about Twitter hot takes. It matters what the results are. If he gets the results, he'll be fine, but he's not getting the results, and that's a problem. It seems like the international break may have killed him a little bit, because even last week's win over Watford wasn't convincing. They got more shots on target than us, and they probably play better. So it is concerning. It's not that surprising. Like, if you want to stand back, I'll take my Man United fan hat off and look at it objectively. He's the former Cardiff manager who got them relegated and got sacked. Like, he's regressing towards the mean. Like, it was the feel good factor has gone, and ultimately this might be what we have to settle for. Like, maybe our dreams of top four were a bit fanciful, but yeah, it's bad. But like, if you were planning like how you were going to celebrate United's title win next season under Solskjaer, that's more on you than anything else. Because if you look at this realistically and soberly, this was always a possibility.
Yeah, and again, it comes back to what we were talking about a couple weeks ago. Just the timing of it. Maybe if you'd given it a few more weeks, then you could announce it. But like, it's all about next year. Like, I think Solskjaer would probably be like, you know what, 6, that's fine. That's fine for me. I've got full transfer window to try and get my own mark on this squad. Get a few of the kind of passengers out and bring in his own names and kind of mold himself for next season. So I don't think he's too worried about the results even at the end of this year. As you mentioned, Barcelona, it's a free shot really with the Champions League because no one was really expecting them to be there after PSG. So why not give it a lash? Barca, we saw at the weekend, they can be got at. So, you know, it's a free shot for them. The league, I don't think he really cares about, because, well, not that he doesn't care about it. It'd be nice to get top 4, but it's not the end of the world.
Lastly, there were scenes in Croker as 3 second-half goals saw Mayo beat Kerry to win their first National League since 2001. With the Dubs looking beatable and Tyrone and Galway also putting in a shift in the campaign, is the drive for 5 in serious jeopardy?
I believe so. Obviously, they're still the clear favourites. But what's going to catch them maybe is the Super 8s format again, because they're in with the Connacht champions. It's the way it's set up is it's Connacht and Leinster in one group and Munster and Ulster in the other. So you're likely going to see them and Mayo in the same group, and then it's the losers of the Munster and the Ulster final. So you've got Dublin, Mayo, the losers of the qualifiers in with the losers of the Munster and Ulster final, if you get me. So round 4 will be the losing provincial finalists against the winners of round 3 of the qualifiers. So I'm going to say that we're probably going to get the likes of Monaghan and Meath maybe in that group as well. Meath have seriously improved. Donegal are floating around. Tyrone, there's so many bubbling. It's the argument that Dublin fans have had for a few years, that because the Dubs are so good, other teams are now raising the bar to try and match them. So now you have, yes, Dublin by far still the favourites 4 in a row, going for 5 in a row. You have maybe Kerry and Mayo as like the second tier, and possibly Tyrone. But that third tier now, the likes of Donegal, Galway, Meath, Monaghan, even the likes of someone like Derry could spring a shock. I'm not going to say now that Dubs won't win the All Ireland, because I still think they will. But when we're doing a big preview for the year, we'll be in a better situation. Right now, it's going to be exciting.
What's interesting to me is that we're looking at I'm looking at Leinster too as in play, and the reason I say that isn't because I think Leinster is like Dublin aren't the best team in Leinster, but the thing we've seen in Dublin in recent years is they tend to grow into championships. They tend to get better as they go on, and as squeaky bum time clicks in, Dublin just show that they've got that extra bit of class. They know they've won 4 in a row, so they know what it's like to win, and they know what to do where other teams can freak out. The thing is, you have the likes of Meath, you have the likes of Laois and Westmeath as well, like just coming on in leaps and bounds, and maybe someone could spring an upset on them in Leinster, like in the way we've seen Mayo get humbled like a couple of times in recent years, like in Connacht, and that's led to Galway kind of raising their stakes. So it's an interesting one. The Super 8s are like, you could see a surprise, like a couple of surprises there. Again, you lose one game in the Super 8s, it's only 3 games, so you can't afford to take your foot off the pedal. It's an interesting one because now, without Dublin necessarily being like there's Dublin and there's everyone else, the Super 8 format looks more attractive. Last year was boring, but that's because Dublin were so dominant. The entire championship was boring last year when we looked at it. We criticised the Super 8 at the Super 8s, but then when you look back in the whole championship, it's like, even the final was shit because Dublin are just better. But now the format looks more attractive, where it's like 3 not necessarily must-win games, where Dublin could take their foot off the gas, and that's what's happened in the Alliance League. Like, they probably are still the best team in Ireland, but they take their foot off the gas week to week. And yeah, like you say, the other teams have not caught up to them, but they've improved their game where they can beat them on a given day. So I think it's exciting. I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad it's happened. And yeah, it was great as well to see Mayo just so happy to win the National League. Like, you don't get that much. So it was heartwarming to see. And look, who knows? Mayo for Sam, I still believe, and I wouldn't be opposed to it if it happened.
Like, I mean, if you said to Mayo fans, you're going to win a trophy in Croker this year, it's the league, they probably would have gone, okay, we were kind of hoping for the other one, but sure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they'll take it at this stage.
I'd love nothing more than for Mayo to win the All-Ireland to stop Dublin to try for 5, because you've got some of the best GAA footballers in the last 10 years on that Mayo side, and to retire without an All-Ireland will be absolutely shambolic.
Yeah. So we shall see. Anyway, guys, we're going to talk about the weekend's Premier League and FA Cup action, guys. The Prediction League is, well, it's never really gone away. We had a midweek session there. I did awful after picking up my second monthly prize in a row. Another month subscription to Low Blows VOD. I'm delighted with my life. So, guys, look, I got off to a slow start, and if you want to get involved, you can now, and there's no better time than now at the start of the month. Winner gets a Low Blows VOD subscription, even if you haven't played the Prediction League already, or even if you played it earlier on but want to get back involved and just make the last few weeks of football interesting for yourself. Get onto the Paddy's New Yacht Twitter. We'll put up a tweet around 6 p.m. today. This is Thursday as we're taping, so as you're listening, it's probably online. And we'll all you have to do is go on, quote tweet that tweet, and give us your predictions for the weekend's games. The FA Cup is not included. We're just going to give the picks for fun and just have a chat about them anyway. So it's just the 6 Premier League games this week, and all you have to do is give us your score prediction and an anytime goal score. If you get the correct outcome, you get 1 point. If your correct score, you get 3 extra points, and if you get the correct anytime goal scorer, you get 2 points. So 6 points per game, loads to play for in the monthly contest. Although it looks like Darren Alam is running away with the yearly contest. Oh, I'm like putting in a late comeback, so I'm not.
Yeah, you're bubbling.
I'm not giving up just yet, so we shall see. Anyway, starting with the action on Friday night in the Premier League, Southampton against Liverpool, and this is screaming Liverpoolitis at me. This is absolutely yelling it. Southampton's only loss in their last 4 has been the 3-2 with United that they'll feel they should have won, and if you watched it, you might feel the same. They're playing with confidence and rolling over even big sides like Spurs, and it'd be absolutely stunning now if they ended up relegated. Meanwhile, what was it that we saw last Sunday? Was it a cup final celebration from Liverpool? In a game that they actually played poorly. They were the second best team in that game, and it would have saw Klopp absolutely savaged and called it Butler had Sissoko not skied his effort and Loris not messed up. And look, let's also take a look at, like we're saying, like Liverpool, they're for real. Let's take a look at their away games in the league in all of 2019 before proclaiming them champions. They lost to City. They beat Brighton 1-0. They drew 0-0 with West Ham, Man United and Everton, and they needed a late James Milner penalty to beat a recently relegated Fulham side. You can say they're winning ugly, and look, we shall see what the narrative is. We watch it every week to see the narrative play out. I say that that's not the former champions, and oh yeah, they're away here to a form side. This is all coalescing nicely for me, and having bottled it myself too many times when I've had these sneaking feelings, I'm going to go for it here. I'm picking Southampton to win 2-1. I'm picking Charlie Austin to score.
I know we've been saying for a while that Liverpool appear to have the easier running of the two. Again, on paper, you probably would still say that, but now we come down to the nitty-gritty and you watch them play every week. There's no more easy games for them, or City for that matter. Ralph Hasenhüttl's men should have beaten Man United at home, should have beaten Man United away, and their last home outing against St Mary's saw them knock off Spurs, having already beaten Arsenal under Ray Austrian. They're really good at home. Knowing that City had the weekend off from league action, Liverpool can once again go top, which will put the pressure back onto Guardiola's men. But they're under pressure themselves that their City reversed that during the week. They've been playing horrifically. They're still winning. But again, on the eye test, they're not looking that good. In Southampton, yeah, look, they've still got everything to play for themselves in the relegation battle. So they definitely need points. They'll be going all out for this. This isn't one that Liverpool can just turn up and coast by a team who aren't interested. Southampton are going to be up for it. I've said for the last few weeks they're going to slip up somewhere. And I've called it the last few weeks and it's always this week. I really believe it this time, though. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. I don't think they lose. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw, possibly a late equaliser, and I'm going to go for Sadio Mane.
A draw isn't the worst result for Liverpool here. It's not the end of the world if they draw, because, look, City have United and Spurs still to come, and that Spurs is in the middle of their 2 Champions League clashes. That is a murderous fixture run for City, so there is the possibility that they'll draw points. A loss is crushing, because the thing they're trying to avoid is the bottler tag, and they're getting away with it because they're getting the ugly results. So a loss will be demoralising for them, as well as obviously the point consequences. That's why I'm just feeling a loss here. It just feels like it's all coalescing into something big here. And cup final celebrations, I always get wary of them, and it's proven me right sometimes. So yeah, it's an interesting one though. Definitely worth a watch on Friday night. Moving on to the Saturday games. These are all bet safe games. Bournemouth against Burnley. Remember Bournemouth were flying high at the start of the season? Yeah, they're now as close to 17th as they are to 10th in terms of points. Burnley did me proud last week, effectively winning me the month in the prediction league. I think I was the only one who had them to beat Wolves. But they're a different beast away from Turf Moor, just as Bournemouth tend to play better in the Vitality, and that's the situation both find themselves in here. Both are in the bottom third in the league for form. Burnley's motivation is sky high in 17th, but Bournemouth know that they could get dragged into a messy relegation situation if they don't win home games like this. Quality for me, evenly matched. So I've got this finishing 2-2 with Josh King to score.
Burnley absolutely bashed Bournemouth back in September. I think it was 4-0 in the end to cure their European hangover with their first win of the season. Things have kind of changed since. Given that Cardiff have the weekend off too, Burnley could put daylight between them and Neil one excited result here. Problem is, stupid sexy Eddie Howe has a solid enough record when it comes to his former club at home, and obviously played much better in Vitality with the Cherries. As we mentioned all season, Burnley's away form not excellent. So yeah, while FMQ probably points to a draw, I just think Bournemouth have this one not easy, but not really difficult either. I'm going to go 2-0 with Josh King.
Okay, interesting. Huddersfield against Leicester. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen to Sievert, and goodbye to Huddersfield. I don't want to even think about you any longer. Leicester are clicking under Rodgers and will end this weekend in 7th with Wolves and Watford on FA Cup duty with a win here. So I've got them to do exactly that, 3-0 Vardy score.
Yeah, look, pressure's off Huddersfield, but they still suck. So easy pick, 3-0 Madison.
Newcastle against Palace. This is a game we can get stuck into. It's a testament to both managers here that both of these sides have looked dead and buried at different stages this season, yet both now harbour ambition of reaching the top half. Newcastle's season is almost the inverse of Bournemouth. They started dreadfully. Now they're as close to the top half as they are to the relegation zone. 8 points. This is a tasty clash with a side who's won their past 5 games at home, facing a side who's away form we've lauded all season, both of whom, while not out of the relegation woods yet, have the pressure relatively off and are playing with a bit of fluency and freedom. Both really entertaining teams to watch, so it should be a good game. Both will also want to win here. They won't necessarily settle for a draw. They'll want to win because they're looking at that top half and they'll see the other side as beatable. The difference maker to me is that Newcastle have scored regularly at home at least twice per game on their run of 5 wins, while Palace have difficulty keeping it out. So I'm going for Newcastle to win here, just winning 2-1 with Perez to score, because I'm sick of picking Rondon. I never get it right when he scores.
You know what's going to happen now, don't you?
Yeah.
Newcastle have a solid record against Palace, more than half the wins in the last 15 meetings between the pair. Having said that, the last 2 have been draws, including a bland 0-0 back in September. Magpies weren't actually that bad against Arsenal on Monday. They've had a couple of problems keeping them out, and won on their home turf 2 weeks ago when they knocked off Everton. Weird quirk for this game, both of these sides were on 32 points, both have gained 16 apiece home and away, which is nice and even. Again, makes no real difference to the betting stats. This is one for bets. On average, 62% of Palace's away games have 2.5 plus goals, so over 2.5 goals on the road. I can't really see that happening, particularly given how they're solid at frustrating teams on the road. But give me a 1-1 draw, and Almiron getting his first goal for Newcastle. I mean, you can talk me into any result here. It could be an enjoyable one-on match today.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say that's, I haven't checked, but I'd say that's odds on for the 3 p.m. Sky game. So Definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, quite possible.
Everton against Arsenal, moving on to the Sunday Premier League games, and slowly but surely Everton are steadying the ship with no injury concerns at exactly the right time as they can return their focus to the best of the rest title of 7th place. While Arsenal have also done a lot of good work and they deserve their 4th spot. Nobody can deny them. That was a potential tricky game against Newcastle on Monday. They made it look easy in the end. Interesting stat though, Arsenal are yet to be the top half side away from home this season, which kind of sways me a little bit when you think of their swashbuckling wins over Spurs and United. It's all happened at the Emirates. Two sides high on confidence, two sides needing a result but respectful of the other. Everything here is pointing me towards a 1-1 draw with Aubameyang to score.
I like this game on paper. I just don't know if I like it enough to watch it.
Yeah.
Toffees are proven very sticky. Yeah, Toffees are proven very sticky, pun intended, with 4 clean sheets in the last 5 games, but the Gunners are firing, pun again intended, with 5 wins in the last 6. I can't wait for the final weekend of the season where I just do my predictions off nicknames. I won't even care anymore. They were very professional against Newcastle in the most recent of those wins, while Everton were slick and going to the London Stadium and completely dominating a West Ham side who, up until then, had been tough to turn over on their home ground. Fact of the week, as you mentioned, this is my fact of the week. Arsenal haven't beaten a top half side all season, but they're still in the top 4 hunt, which is a testament to Unai Emery. It's a stat he'd love to break, though. I think both teams will settle for a point, as he said, because it kind of boosts both of their 4th/7th challenges. However, usually when I use that logic, it goes right. So I'm double bluffing myself, and I'm going to go for a 2-1 Arsenal win with Lacazette scoring.
Okay, interesting. You're thinking yourself into smithereens. That is the thought process of a man who's losing points. I don't hate the pick, I just hate the thought process. On the Monday night then in the Premier League, it's Chelsea against West Ham, and credit where it's due to Maurizio Sarri. The man mightn't be able to manage his team well, but he knows just how to keep himself employed, doing barely enough to do the trick when needed. 2 wins on the trot for Chelsea, and if Arsenal do drop points at the weekend, somehow they'll come into this derby a win away from the top 4. Football is weird sometimes. West Ham's recent record reads exactly like this: win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. So that means win here? I don't know. I can't stand over that in any other way. We spoke last week about how the good results tend to be at home. Then they were handled at home by Everton. Add to that a losing effort away to Cardiff and just edging out fucking Huddersfield 4-3. And it's painting a very different recent picture for Pellegrini. So I feel confident in Chelsea here. But also that tends to be when they let me down. So that makes me nervous. Fuck it. I'm going for it. 2-0 Hazard score.
Yeah, Chelsea oozed quality when doing the job against Brighton in the midweek game. Hudson-Odoi, Hazard, sending a point as a reminder to the bigwigs why they shouldn't be sold in the summer before they eventually get sold in the summer. West Ham, on the other hand, as you mentioned, the most inconsistent team in the league. So after a stinker against Everton, you almost expect a reaction in a London derby. So I went for FMQ, form Chelsea, motivation, definitely Chelsea, quality, again, definitely Chelsea. Blue is the colour, 3-0 Hazard.
Okay, moving on to the FA Cup games. Again, guys, you don't need to worry about these games. We're just discussing it for the sake of it because they're happening. Starting on Saturday evening with Man City against Brighton. Poor Brighton, sweet summer childs, like lambs to the absolute slaughter here. I'd have actually fancied Millwall's chances better if they'd have gone through. Brighton's best result this season was beating Jose Mourinho's United all the way back in August. Giant killers, they are not. Stopping City's quadruple, they are not. City are walking over teams though, so I think they'll rest a few players and keep them at arm's length in a comfortable but not spectacular 2-0 win, with Sane adding to his midweek goal.
Look, Pep is on for the quadruple, and this is the clearest path they have to the second title of that 4. However, we've seen this indestructible City look very, very ordinary in the FA Cup over the last few years. Think Wigan in the final in 2013, Arsenal in 2017 at this stage in the semi-final in Wembley, Wigan last year, and then even Swansea in the quarter-finals, who were very, very close to pulling off the shock of the season. However, they seem locked on to another trophy. They've won the last 3 meetings between them and Brighton. I mean, not to take away from the Seagulls, they rotated against Chelsea midweek to save some of their stars for this. But what I'm looking at here are battles like Sergio Aguero and Kevin De Bruyne against Shane Duffy. That points to one thing. I think someone else will stop that quadruple. It's not Brighton, it's going to be Spurs. I'm going to go 3-1 here with Aguero.
Okay, interesting. Second semi-final is on 4 p.m. on Sunday. It's Watford against Wolves, and either of these teams will be worthy FA Cup finalists, and they're extremely evenly matched too, with just 1 point and position separating them in the league. This consolation prize of a trip to Wembley for the right to be hockeyed by City is the final City in the final is exactly the kind of pat on the head both deserve after a positive season. I see it being tight though. There was cup final celebrations from Wolves, remember, after their dramatic win over United on Wednesday, and that's not necessarily what you want to see when you have to actually play to get into a cup final, a real life one. I see this finishing 1-1. I see Jota scoring, and I see Wolves nicking in extra time or penalties, because that's the final I want to see.
Yeah, Wolves deservedly here after knocking off Liverpool United so far in the cup run, and then doing the exact same thing during the week against the Red Devils. I still believe they're going to decide the title race on the last day against Liverpool. It's just so set up for it, given that they've beaten everyone else or taken points off everyone else bar Liverpool. But they might have an FA Cup final to deal with the week after. They've already won at Wembley this year. They beat Spurs, and I would think that they're probably focused more on a shot at a major domestic trophy, their first since 1960, than 7th place in the Europa League. I don't think that matters too much to Nuno, because they've had a great season so far already, and as you mentioned, getting to the final, probably deserve it for the season they've had. Watford got to win themselves in midweek, but it's the Fulham Claxon, so they weren't really tested. Will that have taken less out of the Hornets than United did against Wolves? Possibly, though Troy Deeney told Talksport this morning, I'm absolutely knackered. That might be something that goes for the rest of the squad. It probably won't be the more exciting of the two semis, but I'm going to back Wolves 2-0 with Jimenez to score.
Okay, we're going to change things up towards the end of the season with our football bets, so we're going to get to that in just a moment. So, Kento, what are you keeping an eye on this weekend?
Oh, last weekend in the Championship was so dramatic. For a few seconds with 20 minutes to go, Sheffield United were 4 points clear of Leeds in second. 20 minutes later, they're 2 points behind after Bristol City got an Andy Vyman hat-trick to shock the Blades. Norwich are now essentially promoted. They're 7 clear of third. But there are 3 huge games. There's about 6 huge games because it's a double game week. It's Saturday and Tuesday. Starting with Saturday, Preston, who lost for the first time in 2019 last weekend to Reading. They shot off the table to 10th. They're 3 points off the playoffs. They host Sheffield United, who need to bounce back from that defeat to Bristol City. Leeds are at Birmingham, and then, there's a movie-like twist in this double game week. Because when on Tuesday night, Preston, who host Sheffield United on Saturday, host Leeds on Tuesday, and Birmingham, who host Leeds on Saturday, they host Sheffield United on Tuesday. So these 5 days will decide, those two teams, Preston and Birmingham, will decide who comes second in the Championship over the next few days. It's going to be mental. I don't know where I'm going to watch it all. Down the bottom, Ipswich are 12 points off safety. They're rock bottom, and they're 8 points off Bolton, who are the nearest rivals. And they travel to the Reebok this week. Well, maybe not, because during the week, the Lancashire FA revoked the Reebok Stadium safety certificate. So Bolton, at the moment, are homeless. They're in financial ruin, so they could drop out altogether before even the weekend starts. I think they might be able to save themselves today. They're due before the safety board again to try and get that certificate back. But it's just an absolute crazy situation.
Yeah, sounds amazing. The Championship is really hotting up this season. But I'm keeping my eye on the European football because it's a box office weekend. I thought a few weeks ago that all the intrigue was drying up, but no, it's got interest and you just have to know where to look. In Serie A, 4 teams are now tied for 5th place, 4 points off Milan in 4th, but Milan travel to Juventus on Saturday evening, so there's a high chance of them dropping points there. On top of that pile, Roma are capitulating, having lost 4-1 to Napoli last week and being held by Fiorentina midweek, with fans already calling for Claudio Ranieri to be sacked from his second club this season. Have you ever seen a more ignominious Premier League winning manager? It takes effort to be kind of to have kind of a worse relationship with clubs than Jose Mourinho does, but Ranieri takes the cake. They face another stiff test away to Sampdoria, who are looming just outside that scrum on Saturday night. As for the others in the mix, Torino travel to Parma on Saturday afternoon. Atalanta head to the San Siro on Sunday to face a resurgent Inter, who are slowly welcoming Mauro Icardi back into the fold. That's on Sunday, while Lazio host Sassuolo, so worth keeping an eye on that race. Maybe not, if you want to watch a match, I'd watch Sampdoria against Roma and Milan Juventus, just because you're getting the big names there, but it's worth keeping an eye on all of those games on Twitter if nothing else. Game you want to keep an eye on, 2 games you want to keep an eye on. in the Liga and the Bundesliga, because 2 titles could be settled this weekend. The La Liga title is either going to be settled or it's going to be blown wide open this Saturday as Atletico go to the new camp to try to eat into Barca's 8-point gap at the top. Barca, they've kind of gone on cruise control at the top though, having won just 3 of their last league games since taking a commanding lead. While Atletico have rallied since going out of the Champions League to Juve a few weeks ago with nothing else to focus on. These games are always tight between these two teams. Of the last 7, 4 have finished 1-1, with Barca edging the other 3 by just a goal. With Barca hobbling along towards another league title and Atleti determined, I'd say the former would settle for a draw, which seems the most likely option here. I don't know if Atletico will be able to beat them. I think Messi's going to, if Atletico are winning, you always have to take into the Messi-Suarez factor. So I'd say a draw is very likely here. Now, the main event of the weekend for me is in the Bundesliga, because it's all come down to this. The most exciting title race in Europe took another left turn last week, as it was Bayern who surprisingly slipped, dropping 2 points away to mid-table Freiburg, allowing Dortmund to sneak back on top after they held serve against Wolfsburg. That's only made this weekend's their Klassiker between the two teams, which could decide the title. It makes it more compelling though, because a draw might have suited both sides if they come into this on level points. Now Bayern need to win. They cannot afford to lose at this stage. The last time these two teams met, you may remember, was one of the games of the season as Dortmund eked out a 3-2 win. But in the return fixture, it's Dortmund sweating some key defensive injuries, while they have key players like Pulisic and Maximilian Philippe still missing, and Bayern come into this at full health. Bayern, however, come into this off a rougher than expected 5-4 German Pokal Cup win over Heidenheim during the week, while Dortmund will be the fresher of the two. And if we needed much further intrigue than that, Robert Lewandowski is looking for his 200th goal in the Bundesliga against his former club. It's all on the line here, guys. This one is absolutely can't miss. And I have a really good hit rate of telling you the games to keep an eye on in the European football. You cannot miss this game. It's on BT Sport from 5:30 on Saturday evening, and that is my pre-Buskers viewing sorted. It is absolutely essential if you're a football fan. They're the games I'm going to be keeping an eye on. Like I said, we're going to be changing up the bets in Paddy's new yacht towards the end of the season, just to spice it up a little bit and to give me a bit of a better chance, maybe appeal it more towards my taste. So we're going to be betting on European games as well. So I've got Barca and Atletico to finish a draw. I've got both teams to score in Newcastle Crystal Palace. I've got Leicester to beat Huddersfield. I've got Chelsea to beat West Ham, and I've got Man City -1. €5 on that. All of them seem pretty...
I love that bet.
All of them seem pretty plausible. €5 on that gives you 98 in return on Paddy Power. Other bookmakers are available. So they're the leagues I'm going to be keeping an eye on at the weekend. But of course, it goes without saying that they're not the greatest league in the world. So Dave, what's going on in LOI?
Story of the week comes from the EA Sports Cup second round, which happened during midweek. I think it was Tuesday night and Wednesday. League leader Shamrock Rovers were away at the First Division Bray. The game went to penalties after a 0-0 draw after 120 minutes, and Rovers decided to start a live stream on Twitter and Facebook from the Carlisle grounds for the shootout. They went 1-0 up, all well and good. Bray equalised. Rovers missed the second penalty. Bray went 2-1 up. They were fine. Rovers missed again, and suddenly the stream went offline very, very quickly after Bray took their third penalty and scored. And it was just like, lads, if you're gonna commit to that, at least accept it. But mysterious circumstances. I'm sure they blame the completely clear sky that was in the Bray on Tuesday evening. Definitely wasn't any wind or anything that could have been used as an excuse. But they're back on the television. We're back in league action. They're on the television on Friday, and they face their trickiest game of the season. Remember, they're 7 points clear at the top, but they're going to a bogey ground in Turner's Cross to take on Cork City, who are on the back foot, have been beaten last week by Dundalk, and they're already behind in the title race, so they need to start keeping pace again. Rovers have an awful record against Cork in Turner's Cross. They've won 2 of the last 19 meetings, and this is the trickiest game they've had so far for this supposed title challenge. So it's there are other games on Friday night. Most people have been watching Liverpool, but you catch the highlights afterwards.
I'll keep an eye on Twitter while I'm watching the Liverpool game.
Oh yeah, I'll be tweeting out about it anyway.
That's my compromise. All right, Dave, we're gonna add a video to this now because it is time for our weekly Kent on Kent segment where we quiz Dave on the stories he's been reporting. And Dave,
it's Huddersfield.
Yeah, you're doing a Huddersfield. You're limping out of this, like 16-12 down, and I think like it's at the stage where you nearly
5 weeks left. I think. Yeah.
I haven't done the match, but like you need to start winning basically. But if you don't know, if you're only listening for the first time, my esteemed colleague David Kent, of course, is a reporter for the Daily Star and Buzz.ie. Every week we quiz him on the stories that he has reported himself. See how much he remembers his own stories. I've made these gettable now because you do need to start getting points back, or it's all over. We give him 3 questions on stories he's reported. If he gets 2 or more, he gets a point. He is not getting a lot of points lately. It's going badly.
Yeah, it's getting to the stage where like next week Rick's gonna have to ask me what's your name, and I'll probably still get that wrong. And that's the form I've been in.
3 questions on the clock, Dave. You haven't been doing much reporting this past week. Jesus Christ, what are you up to? What are you at?
Shifts have been cut back. So,
all right, fair enough. So
it's not my fault.
We've had to go into the archive for some entertainment stories, but I have made them gettable. So we shall see 2 or more. First off, you reported, and thank you for this, by the way, that the only place to watch WrestleMania this Sunday in Ireland is in Buskers on the Ball. But what was the first event that Low Blows ever held in Buskers? I need the pay-per-view and I need the year. Or the number.
It was WrestleMania because it was at the Rumble was the first one that caused the move. And, oh my goodness. What Rumble? The Rumble was when Orton won. Because we saw Nakamura win, and that was 2017. Nakamura didn't win the Rumble this year. So.
What year is it?
2016.
What year is it this year?
No, you say sorry. It's 2019. So that's the Rumble. 2017 was Orton. So it's WrestleMania. What are we this year? 35. WrestleMania 35, 34, 33. WrestleMania 33.
I'd have accepted the year anyway. But,
okay, sorry.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Right. Question 2. Going into the archive for random stories, a few weeks ago you reported that there are 7 words Meghan Markle and Kate Middleton can't say. Name 4 or more of those words.
Dessert.
That's 1.
I know. That's the moist.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah. And like, I know dessert. The other 6, I'm reaching. Look, they probably can't swear, so.
Like, you reported this. You wrote all this down.
I know. Like, Diana.
Jesus. I don't think they'd be putting that in the memo.
That's true. Actually, funeral and I like cake. I know dessert. That's all I can remember.
Okay. Question 3.
Think I might have got that one wrong.
I think you'll get this one. Lastly, you reported that we were getting a 3rd Bill and Ted movie. Give us the character's full name in Bill and Ted.
Never seen it, don't know.
Dave! You sounded really...
You know me with movies.
You're a good journalist. You sounded really enthusiastic in your report. Like, fair fucks to you. I was he's definitely seen that.
Adventure. Yeah, no.
That was disastrous, Dave. Jesus Christ. Theodore Ted Logan and Bill S. Preston Esquire. No.
I think I've heard of Ted Logan. I probably would have got that, but no.
You said dessert. That's 1, but we asked you to name 4. The other words were pardon, toilet, perfume, tea, lounge, and posh.
I wasn't too far away with cake, with tea.
Just because you said dessert, you just said the same thing twice. You don't get it. Well, I'll give you that. You said 2 then, if you want. Like, it doesn't matter.
1.5. I still lose.
Right. You assume you've got 1.
I presume I've got 1. I've probably done my math.
You were at this event, so you should know that the first Low Blows party we ever held in Buskers was for Fastlane 2017.
I wasn't at that.
Were you not? I thought you were. No. I thought I remembered that. No. Okay, fair enough. Well, yeah, no, we held one before WrestleMania as a trial run. So, yeah, Dave, 0. That was bad.
Give me the half points. I got 2 for the 7 words.
You're still, right. You're still, like, that is bad. Kento, 17-12. It's just gone off the rails.
It has.
Kento,
I peaked way too early.
you need to get back reporting, and you need to go do your homework on your stories next week. Just look over them. Like, I can't believe you don't do this with how competitive you are.
What? I didn't look over my stories this week at all, to be fair. But also, they were from the archives too. I only had 1 day this week. I've got 3 days this week on Buzz. So
All right, interesting. Right,
you'll get more.
Just read your stories back. All right, next week we shall see. That might be the season. It might be for the season next week. So
we'll have to think of something new after that.
It'd be a crazy end if you did come back though. We shall see, guys.
For future reference, if you ever want to stick me, if I somehow get this back to like 18 all. Just ask me movies questions. I don't know any of them.
Anyway, guys, look, that's all we have. Enjoy your weekend. We hope to be hanging out with you and having points to talk about all the sport this weekend in Buskers on the Ball, starting on Saturday night and then moving on to Sunday. So enjoy that. Enjoy the sports. Watch the Classicer on Saturday evening. Do watch it. It's going to be way better than Man City Brighton. Liverpool, please lose against Southampton. I really hope that happens. It'll be gas. But until next week, where we'll be back to discuss whatever happens on more and see if Kento can save his season for David Kent. I've been Rick Nash, and this has been Paddy's New Yacht.